Good morning and welcome. So good to be here with you today. This is our second in a series of storytelling trainings around how to really capture your audience, how to capture the attention of any audience. Like, let's be real, how many of you have speaking or presentations to give? And one of the fears is, how will I keep everyone engaged? How will I keep their attention in a world where our attention is so divided? The truth is, it's hard to keep people's attention. There's so many things that are distracting us from staying focused. How many of you here today are looking for some authentic ways to capture attention, keep people engaged so that they can follow along with you to where you're wanting them to go? My name is Serena Andrea, and I am the creatrix of the YoniVerse Monologues, and it is a delight to be here and share with you some of my favorite storytelling tricks. I have been telling and teaching to hundreds of people all over California for the last 6 years, really diving into the art of storytelling and how we can use it as presenters, as coaches, as a healing modality, as a way to share our gifts and our message in the world. And I want to bring some of those things here for you today. So if you are live here today, if you happen to be here, please post below, what do you want to know about capturing an audience? And if you have a special je ne sais quoi, something that you do to capture your audiences, post below. I'd love to know about that too. What we're going to cover here today are the 3 keys that I always encourage my storytellers to use when they climb on stage, so that they can really feel that there's a magnetic connection between what they're sharing in their story and the audience out there. Storytelling is really the magical net that creates connection between a teller and an audience. All of our brains are wired for storytelling. We've been telling stories for hundreds and hundreds of years. We learned how to tell stories way before we learned how to write stories. So inside of your audience's mind is the ability to listen to story, understand story, track story, and really bring it into their hearts and their minds and connect with you as a speaker and as a storyteller. Now, you might be struggling with how to capture your audience. You might be struggling with, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what to say that's relevant to them. I see all of these speakers who are inspirational, magnetizing, alluring, calm, confident, and I'm not. And I'm here to tell you that over the last 6 years of taking women through my storytelling program, that there are a variety of enchanting ways to really capture your audience by being you. Being you is the secret. Being authentic and bringing your authentic self forward is really the key to capturing an audience. So I'm going to share with you a couple really key points on how to get your authenticity to come forward, since oftentimes when we're in front of an audience, we're afraid. Maybe we're afraid of our judgment. Someone posted on the Sisterhood Storytelling page yesterday that she's afraid of people's judgment. What will they think of her? And that's one of the things we all face, living in a world of other people that will be judged by them. And that can often stop us from bringing forth our authenticity. I also want to invite you, if you haven't yet, to go over to the Storytelling Sisterhood page, which is a special Facebook group page just for people like you who are wanting to learn more and more about storytelling. And I'll be posting trainings over there throughout the year, along with this page. Danusha, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. Poetry and storytelling are very similar. And so when we are putting forth our work in the world, one of the keys to capturing your audience is vulnerability. Now, it's not easy, in my experience, being vulnerable in a group of people. I remember when I was teaching to a couple hundred women with Women Rocking Business. And I was about to tell my personal story on how I built my business. And I knew that in my story, I couldn't just talk about how amazing my life was and how far I'd come. I had to also talk about the struggle and what it took me to climb out of poverty into a place where I was actually charging for what I was worth, for my skills. And I was on stage and I had my story outline memorized, or what story I was going to tell. But what I didn't know before I'd written that story was that I was going to invite my mom to that event. My mom has been one of my biggest allies in my life. She has shown up again and again, supporting me to bring my genius forward. I think I'm going to cry. So I invited her to this big event where I was going to be speaking, and she was up in the balcony. And as I was telling my story about how I had wanted to join this business building program and really build the YoniVerse into a program where I could reach lots of women and help them transform, I started to get really soft in my heart and my voice started to shake. And instead of pushing through that, speeding up or pretending I wasn't having feelings, I actually slowed down. As I slowed down, I could feel the women in the audience leaning forward at the edge of their seats. They wanted to know what was going to happen next. As I paused, I started to feel vulnerability, sadness, and gratitude welling up in my body. And I just named that having my mom in the audience on that day, seeing me stand in my genius and offering my gift, was more than any daughter could want in a lifetime, to be able to show my mom that I was a good investment and that her standing by me mattered. When I was done speaking and I climbed off stage, I had dozens of women come up to me, sharing how touched they were because they had a similar story with their mom. When they had gone through trials and tribulations, it was their mom that showed up. When they had lost, when they were sick, their mom had shown up through their entire lifetime, and they could really relate to me. The power of being vulnerable in a group, in front of a group of people, allows you to connect with them. My mom's story connected to me to other women and their mom's story. And then we were able to begin our relationship together. I can't say enough about vulnerability and being willing to be human in front of the people that you are working with. And not just to tell stories where there is a happily ever after. Because what's true about storytelling is we do want to know a story has some happiness, but we won't believe it if we haven't also heard that there's struggle and that we're real and that we're human. One of my dearest friends coined the word vulnerageous, combination of vulnerability and courage. Those two together are what you need to capture on your audience. Vulnerability and the courage to be that vulnerable, and then bring them with you to where you are now or where they could be now. This makes your story really authentic, allows you to bring your whole self forward. So you're not hiding that something didn't go right in your past. So this brings me to my second point that I want to share with you, all about emotional tone. How many of you see a speaker and you're like, oh my God, they're so happy. Oh my God, that speaker, they really can get into the heart and the vulnerability or the sadness. When we share emotional tone in our stories, it become even more captivating. And what I've seen is there's some categories that we fall into. Some emotions we're as speakers or tellers, more comfortable sharing with our people. So one of my comfort zones is to share heartbreak, like grief, that kind of like, oh, life. I go there. And when I go there and I share that with my audience, I bring them into that heartfelt, like, oh, life is so beautiful and tragic at the same time. It's one of my favorite places to actually feel and then share. You may not be that kind of speaker. There's many women that I've trained that aren't in that category. That's too vulnerable to share with their audience. No problem. There are other speakers that I have seen that love to engage in their passion, maybe even with an undertone of anger that leads to inspiration. Imagine for yourself when you've had a speaker, you've been to listen to someone speak, and they're really passionate about the environment, or they're really passionate about anti-trafficking laws. They're in it. And they're speaking, and they're often speaking with their hands like I'm doing now, and they're bringing their passion and potentially some of their anger forward. That can also be really moving and captivating to an audience because they can feel that you care about something, that you're up to something, that you really want to bring that forward. Some people, that's too much. They're not that intense. They care about things, but they're softer. Think of a speaker where you felt like their kindness, whether it's the way they're speaking or their eyes, there's just a softness about them. There's a leaning back. This might be you. This can also captivate an audience by leaning back and letting your audience drift towards you. Let's not forget humor, right? Humor. I wish I were funnier. I try, and I'm mostly not, except when I'm making fun of myself, and I'm enjoying that a lot. Humor is a great way to bring people in. Laughter is a openness. It's a letting down and a letting go. Some of my favorite tellers have been those ones that will bring us into something really vulnerable and then share something funny and lighten the mood and join everyone in the game. No matter where you are on the spectrum of emotional tone, what will captivate your audience is being more of you, allowing what's inside to come out. That emotional tone wraps people in, because as humans, we all have emotional tone. We all have a feeling state. When you match that with a story, it's a total winner. Now, here's another tip. If you have a home base of an emotional tone, say you're a very inspired, inspirational speaker, it's good to do the opposite as well, to slow down and bring people into a softness so that you can have some tension in your story. If I told heartbreaking stories only, and I was only sobbing on stage, I would lose a lot of people. I have to also balance my depth of emotional tone with some lightness and some lightheartedness, which is why I'm always working on my sense of humor. Working on letting my sense of humor out, I guess I should say, to make some balance between the two. When you mix up your emotional tone when you're presenting, that can create another way of interest, of surprise, of dexterity in your language, so that your audience leans closer. They're like, what is she going to do next? Is she going to cry, or is she going to crack a joke? What's true? People lean in for those kinds of nuances. So first thing, again, vulnerability, bring it. Second thing, emotional tone, bring your emotions, bring your texture. And the third thing is pace. So what I love about pace is that you can really feel your audience and move with them. I want to give you an example about pace. So when I speak in the morning and I speak in the evening, I have a very different pace. In the morning, and my audience is usually awake. In the afternoon or after lunch, they can be very tired, listless, dreamy. So I will change my pace according to how my audience is feeling, because what I want them to be is awake and paying attention. I want them to be engaged. So I'll have to change my pace. Now, pacing can look like a number of things. Pacing could be your voice, talking quicker or slowing it down. Pace can be how you move as you're speaking, having your hands more engaged, slowing down. Where I also like to involve pace is when I am telling stories about other things. I often use stories within stories, and I'll tell stories, teaching stories that have a lot of action in them, where things are happening quickly, and I'm asking my audience to keep up with that pace, to pay attention. In our world, we're inundated with a lot of information. And the pace of information coming at us as an audience, as listeners, as humans, can be really overwhelming. So slowing down your pace when you're giving information can also really draw your audience in. If you're a teacher and you are disseminating information, if you slow your pace down, you're giving your audience a chance to digest the information. If we can't digest and understand information, it often just goes like that, right? We have no place to put it. So if you're that kind of teacher, slowing down your pace is helpful. If you were here yesterday, you also got to hear about some embodiment techniques to keep yourself in your body and present. These can be combined really easy with your pace, because oftentimes our pace speeds up when we're excited and nervous. We start talking fast, our breath is shortened. So remember, if you're going too fast, if you feel like all of your information is coming out too quickly and maybe your audience starts to look glazed over, you can use some of the embodiment techniques that I talked about yesterday. Bending your knees, feeling your feet, getting in touch with your breath, putting hands on your body, and gentle yoni pulses. All of those things can help you slow down. Now, what happens if you're going too slow? Your pace is too slow for your audience. People are not engaged. They're dreaming out. They're distracted. You can actually engage your body more. Speed up your breath. Take deeper and fuller breaths, and even continue to do those gentle yoni pulses with a little bit more intention. Now, yoni pulses are not Kegels. We're not trying to build muscle. What the yoni pulses are about is gently engaging your pelvic floor muscles, ever so gently, so that you can feel chi moving up your thighs. That will invigorate your body, and you can bring that to your message. What I love about that is that you can be doing it all the time, and no one will notice. It'll be your secret. And bringing more of your body, more of your vitality, and more of your femininity to what you do is what I'm really a stand for. I used to get so nervous in front of an audience because I thought I was supposed to be like someone else. I thought I needed to sound like someone else. And so I would often disengage from the sensations in my body, just trying to keep it together. That started to fall away as I began speaking to larger and larger groups of women, and I learned firsthand that women really wanted to know who I was. They wanted to know, what was it about me that was like them? So authenticity of dropping into who I was, what I was feeling in my body, and naming it out loud as I was speaking became an essential tool, and is my most essential tool. when I'm teaching. If you're on the page right now, I just want you to know that I'm so glad you're here. I would love to offer you more support. I want to give you all of my storytelling skills right now and help each and every one of you find a way to really bring the most of your authenticity to whoever you're speaking to. And if you're interested, I'd love to offer you some individual attention. I've opened up my calendar this week, including tomorrow, for a half an hour, one-on-one, individualized support in helping you master your story. You may be using your story for personal growth. You may be using your story to attract people that you want to give your message to. You may be using your story so that you can create a bond with the people that you work with. You may be using your story for a group to facilitate. What I'm stand for is that you get the support that you need. I've heard hundreds of stories, and I can say without a doubt that every story is valuable. Whatever you've lived through, whatever you've experienced, whatever you have or haven't gotten, your story is the key to bringing more of yourself forward so that you can be you. If you walk away from this video with learning nothing else, I want to give you the permission to give yourself to be you in front of a group. Some of you may be working with a small group on video. Some of you may be reaching hundreds of people. Being able to bring your story through your body and through your heart to them will make everyone stop twiddling on their phones and dreaming about what's for lunch and really stay with you step by step. It's one of the most amazing things in my experience is seeing how most women have adopted some story that the way they are them, the way their femininity comes through, the way their charisma comes through, the way they are withdrawn or the way they're boisterous is somehow not okay. And I just haven't seen that. Of all the women I've seen that those things that make you uniquely you is what your people want more of. And when you wrap a story around that, you'll have your audience captivated again and again. So if you haven't already taken me up on my free offer, please go to my link, book a 30-minute session. And if we're a fit to work together, we'll talk about that then. But what I really want to give you is some tips for you on what is your personal pace? What is your emotional tone? And where is there room for you to grow and balance your emotional tone so that you can bring all of you forward? Tomorrow will be our last training. And that's where I'm going to address one of the key things I get asked all the time. How do I memorize a story? How do I do that? How do I get it inside of me and my bones so that I can bring it forward? I started off memorizing 45-minute fairy tales for my students. And so I have learned how to capture images and really memorize and embody my story so that I can tell it anywhere. And I want that for you too. So please join me again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., same spot, and we'll be doing our last story mastery training. And if you know anyone in your world who wants to learn more about storytelling, please share this and the other trainings with them. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. For now, my name is Serena Andrea, and it has been a divine delight sharing what I love to do with you. Remember, tell good stories about yourself. Bye for now.